Maybe it's not the best coping mechanism, but sometimes it just feels nice to look alright on the outside, even if things aren't going so great on the inside. Let's do some makeup and chat about a kind of depressing assignment I had. Hey you! So good to see you again, or to meet you, whichever way. Thanks so much for clicking in. You've clicked into a video that's part of my travel nurse series, which may eventually morph into just a regular nursing talk topic series because I am a travel nurse. It's one of the things that has enabled me to do a lot of the international travel that I really enjoy and hope to be sharing more with you in the future. So I like to talk a little bit about my career. If that's something that interests you, please stick around. Today we're going to be talking about my assignment up in Maine, which was actually a little bit depressing, and it got me into makeup because it kind of served as a distraction and something that made me feel a little bit better because, you know, when you feel a little bit more pretty. So I've actually done something special. If you have watched a lot of my videos before, you probably noticed my background is different today, and it's because I did a whole setup for this little makeup style video. I'm gonna show you real quick. So here's my little special event setup. I was watching a bunch of tutorials on girls who like do makeup channels to see, and it looked like the important thing was they always had lights on either side. I have 2 ring lights as of right now. That was my very first ring light, and this is my upgraded one. I don't have another one, so what I did instead is I'm improvising, and I have a tripod that we're putting this phone that I'm recording on right now on and putting the flash, and it gives me a little bit of extra lighting than nothing. And then I've got my pile of beauty and makeup stuff over here that we're about to be playing with, and my script, and I am using that shoe to try to hold up this little mirror here. But I don't even think we're going to use the mirror much. I think we're probably just going to be using the viewfinder because I was practicing and it was very awkward and took my face and eyes and everything very away to actually try to use this mirror. So yeah, let's jump right into it and see how this goes today. So we're gonna play this out kind of like just how I would get ready for work up there. So we're gonna start by fixing my hair real quick, how I would have it at work, and then we'll talk about how the assignment itself started. So let's get my hair real quick. So yeah, that's pretty much all I would do. My hair, let me see, it's a little bit bulgy, but it's gonna work. Honestly, half the time that's how I would throw it up for actual work too. The important thing is that it's out of the way of everything. It was a lot longer back when I was up in Maine. It was actually like hip length and a little bit more, so I would do slightly more creative things. I would do like a space buns thing, or sometimes if I was working too many days in a row and it got really heavy and was giving me headaches being up like this, I would wear it a little lower, although I don't love that look because I feel like this helps me look younger and like a little bit more energy versus when it's down here. Anyways, enough with the hair talk. Let's talk about the assignment and how I got into it and everything. So if you saw last week, I was talking about my nightmare assignment in Tennessee. You should totally check that out if you haven't. But after this video, stick around first. Anyways, here's the link up there. And I had to get out of the assignment very fast, long story short, because it was not safe for my patients or my license. So I kind of rushed into this main assignment because I really needed a job, because I had also just got back from a giant trip that we have just started talking about over on my international series. And Maine was the first thing that kind of came. That was the pay I was looking for, and also something that was, you know, within my scope as a med-surg nurse. So I was like, okay, I guess this is what it's gonna be. I had called my manager up in Maine pretty much, well, she called me pretty much right after I quit the Tennessee job. I had that Maine job within another 24 hours. It's really great how flexible my job can be and how available jobs can be depending on if you're willing and able to go pretty much anywhere in the country, which I was. I was actually excited because I had never been to the northeastern part of my country before. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's go see the northeast of the United States, you know, New England area is what they call it. So I was pretty excited actually. Here is my primer. Let me see if we can get, yeah. So I usually use the tinted ones because I am pretty pale and my face gets red with literally anything, and that helps to neutralize it a little bit. Let me see. So Maine wasn't actually that far away. It was maybe I was planning for it to take about 3 days because I was going towards the middle of Maine. I was probably going to be within like 3 or 4 hours of the Canadian border. Oh my gosh, it is so hard to talk and do this at the same time, but it's also very fun. Anyways, I was going to be going up by myself for the first time. Usually when I was going to my travel assignments, I had family to go with me, but it just didn't work out like that, in part because this was so last minute. I had about a month of downtime. See, you can already see how red I'm getting. Anyways, I had about a month of downtime, and then it was time to go up to Maine. So I just packed all my things up, and it was time to go up and check out the northeastern part of my country for the first time. This is all the concealers that I had with me. I do not remember which ones I used because it's been a long time since I've used them. So I'm just gonna pick one. I want to use it for my eyes and my face. So, let's see. All right, let's just go with the NYX. It's Can't Stop, Won't Stop. We'll see how that goes. I always put something under my eyes because I feel like I have a tendency to look kind of tired. I actually have, it's not that uncommon for my patients to be like, are you okay? You look tired. And I'm like, this is just my face. I'm sorry. Speaking of being tired though, while I was in going up to Maine, I actually had some really bad insomnia. I don't know why. It was just, I could not sleep. So I actually got up there in like 2 days. I was already in Vermont, about to be at Maine. And so my crazy self, this was late March, almost April. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to go up to Canada because Quebec was actually pretty close. And I wanted another country on my passport because I hadn't been out of the country for a while. And I'd never been to Canada. So I went up there. And for one, the people at Border Control were very suspicious of me because I had all my things in my car since I was moving. And it was kind of like, you know, messy because I'd also been living out of it for the last 2 days or so with the insomnia stuff and everything. And on top of all that, it was about 2 in the morning because again, insomnia, I was just randomly like, okay, I'm gonna go to Canada now. So these ladies were, I am so sure they were talking about me in French. They started talking in French and they were just like, so can we have some paperwork verifying that you're actually going to Maine and like where you live and everything? But we got it all sorted out. I had to stand out in the cold with my jacket while they went through literally everything. And it was kind of embarrassing because like I said, some of my stuff was a little bit messy. But I ended up getting to go up, but I didn't actually make it to Quebec. And that's because all of a sudden it just hit whiteout. And I almost never drive in winter weather anyways because I'm from the south, and I've had assignments in places with winter weather, but I've never been there for like the hardcore winter portion of it. So all of a sudden it's just, you can't even see your hand in front of your face type of whiteout. And I see other cars continuing to drive and I'm wondering, am I just crazy? But I pull over because I was also driving somewhere where there was like valleys and canyons and I was so scared. I was like, what if I can't see the lines on the road? How do I even know I'm still on the road? And I remember I called Angel and I called my mom and I video called Angel even. Angel's my friend down in Peru, for those of y'all who are new. And I love sharing stuff, these kind of things with him. Well, this time I was just scared and I was still used to leaning on him when scary things happened because we had just gone on a big trip together. And eventually it cleared up enough though that I just kind of limped the car very, very slowly to the first exit and found a little motel. And the lady was making fun of me so hard. She was like, why didn't you just keep going to Quebec? I'm like, because I don't know how to drive in this. This is scary. I just want to go and sleep for tonight and drive back to my country tomorrow. So that's what I did. I didn't even have proper breakfast in Canada. I just like pieced the heck out and got up. My car that I had and have, you have to open it manually with an actual key. And the key gears got frozen shut, so I had to take warm water. Luckily I had a coffee maker. I took warm water from my coffee maker and poured it over so that I could actually unlock my car. And luckily it hadn't gotten so cold to hurt my battery or anything. But yeah, I was just so done. I crossed back over to the United States border, and then I was in my assignment. I have a bazillion concealers too. It's not even funny. It's hard initially finding a shade. I remember back when I was in high school, my sister would always get like the Walmart brand stuff, which honestly I got most of this stuff from Walmart and Walgreens, but for some reason, I don't know if there's been a little bit of an evolution with this recently, but everything that she got was always this yellow warm undertone that did not work for me at all. So I always just thought that maybe makeup wasn't for me. And then I discovered cool tone, but it's still so hard. So anyways, that was a whole little tangent. This is what we're gonna this is what we're gonna be using today. It's no, I want to use something else. JK. The CoverGirl. We'll go with CoverGirl today. So let's start putting this on while I talk about housing up in Maine. I had a kind of hard time, honestly, and part of it was because I was in such a rush that I didn't really look into housing before I accepted the assignment. I basically just assumed that because it was a town bigger than Worland, I would be able to find something, and it was pretty close to a large city too, so worst case scenario, I would just have to commute some. And I didn't know this, but I was pretty close to a national park, Acadia, which there's people who will just like summer vacation up there, like long term. So a lot of the places that provide housing for travel healthcare workers only do it in the winter, and in the summer they can make more being Airbnbs. So a lot of the leads that my recruiter gave me were people saying, oh no, I don't rent out this time of year to travel healthcare workers. But I did manage to find something. It was actually walking distance from the facility, so that was great. I think I put on way too much concealer, but let's see how this goes. Anyways, my landlord was amazing. I lived right down the street, or right across from him. He was on a hill just a little bit below me. And the house itself was beautiful. It was over 100 years old. It was a little bit creepy though, because my landlord had basically inherited the house because he was very close family friends with the lady and her husband who had lived there. And the lady who lived there, he gave me a tour and he's like, yeah, she actually passed away right here. And you know how we talk about haunted houses up in older parts of our country? I was like, this is literally just asking for haunted. He even, which, may she rest in peace, and I'm so glad they had such a great relationship, but he had such a good relationship with her that he had pictures of her in the house, and I couldn't ask him to not have the pictures because I felt like that would be disrespectful, but it took me a while not to just feel completely creeped out by that. And I was going to be working night shift on this assignment, so I hung out in that kind of creepy house all by myself quite a bit, and that was fun. Anyways, another thing about the house that wasn't so great is that it was very cold. So like I said, I got caught in a whiteout just a little bit north of there in like the beginning of April. So it was still full on my definition of winter back then. And the house did not really have very good heating. I think it's just the nature of the beast when it's an older building like that. Let's see, try not to get this in my hair. But it was so cold that I had a jacket I had worn in Sweden in the wintertime, and I would wear that thing around the house. And I had one little space heater that my landlord had luckily given me. I don't travel with a space heater, and now I'm considering starting to do it because I wanted mine so bad. and it had wheels on it. And what I did was I literally just lived in my bedroom and then took that little space heater and wheeled it out to the bathroom and put it in the bathroom and heated the bathroom for at least a solid 10 minutes before I ever started trying to take a shower. And that was how I was living until it finally started to warm up in mid-June. But you know, small little compromises. It was also one of my most expensive rentals, but that was because of the potential for them turning it into an Airbnb once summer season rolled around and kind of sacrificing that. Housing was insane. If you're planning to take a contract up in Maine, look into that first because it's crazy. Oh my gosh. I ended up having a roommate towards the end of the contract though, so that was pretty helpful. It took my rent down from, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, it was $1,400 a month for, which granted it had a full kitchen, it had, I would call it a bedroom and a half, because there was one bedroom that was almost more like a little closet, but it had a window and a bed, so it technically was a bedroom. And then my bedroom, which was a larger proper bedroom with a closet, and also, you know, a full bathroom and a living room. So it was a lot of space. I get it, but still, it was nicer to only have to pay $700. At the end of the day, my landlord was great. Having him live right there beside me made me feel a lot safer. The heating was just part of it. I'm cold-natured, so I think that it's pretty easy for me to complain about being cold in a place. And it was fun having a roommate towards the end. All right, let's go ahead and start talking about the assignment itself. I know my eyebrows look pretty strong on camera, but they're actually they have enough blonde in them that with any kind of light, even slightly the wrong way, they basically disappear. So I do put a little bit of extra color to make them pop and stick around a little better. My camera is not wanting to focus because it sees my eye, but this is by Revlon. It's the brown color. That's another thing. The very first time I got an eyebrow pencil, I wasn't paying attention and realized it was black, which does not work for me. So yeah, anyways, let's start to talk about this assignment while I fix my eyebrows a little bit. Oh, so the assignment itself was a kind of smaller hospital. I think we had one or two med surg floors, and then an ICU and an ER. And the very crazy thing, one second, I just saw a spot I want to fix there. One of the craziest things about Maine that I hadn't seen anywhere else is that apparently during COVID especially, they had shut down pretty much all their nursing homes and they just never came back. So if you're someone who works in healthcare, you might be familiar with how sometimes people come into the hospital. Oh my gosh, these are gonna probably be pretty strong because I'm having a hard time with this viewfinder, but it's gonna be okay. Anyways, you know how people come into the hospital and then we realize they were living on their own, but they probably shouldn't be anymore, and we find placement for them? Well, in Maine, those kind of people just ended up staying in the hospital. Oh, I'm so not happy with these eyebrows. Oh, we are gonna... Sorry, I'm getting distracted with them. Woo! You know what? We're gonna go for it. Hope my eyebrows don't distract you too bad the rest of the time. Anyways, that's how we should have been doing it. So there were people that were just living up in the hospital that had been there for over a year and had very little possibility. Like, we were still looking for places for them, but their address was literally the hospital when you looked at their legal documents. And I could tell they weren't really planning on going, because another thing is every state has different legal processes for... I'm distracting myself so bad with my eyebrows. Let me just look at them real quick. Okay, we're going to try to brush these out a little bit while I talk, and maybe we'll spot a little bit of this extra makeup off. Okay, I was talking to you about the legal processes up in Maine for these patients. It was a lot easier for them to appeal being put into a place they didn't like than other places, where what I was used to in Tennessee, was that people would literally get put on a stretcher saying, please don't take me to this nursing home, please don't take me. But they were medically cleared, and they had to go to, pretty much in most cases, they had to go to the first place their insurance company told them that they were qualified for, and that therapy said was medically appropriate for them. And other nurses from different parts of the country were telling me the same thing. But in Maine, unless you literally get taken to court and declared demented and incapable of making your own decisions, you get to appeal being sent to a nursing home. And because there's so few nursing homes, it already takes very long to get placement. So anyways, that essentially made it to where I was working in a long-term care vibe, but still technically a med-surg floor, with a mix of essentially long-term care patients and then more acute med-surg patients. My eyebrows are still driving me crazy. I hope they don't still drive you guys crazy too. Let's see, this is honestly about the whole look I would do. I started realizing that this really washed me out, so I tried learning to put just a teeny bit of blush on. Let me do that real quick. The long-term care situation was actually a little bit fun for me because I got to form relationships with these people, even though the two main very long-term care ones were pretty difficult. I'm not gonna say too much about them because then somebody could possibly know who I'm talking about, but they had some severe mental and lifestyle factors, and they were actually very young to be going into long-term care situations and to be living out of a hospital. There were other people their age who they're working at the hospital taking care of them, and it was just sad to see somebody in that kind of situation. But we tried to make it as nice as possible for them when they were being nice to us, because sometimes they took out everything on us and we were like, look, you can't take this out on us, we're here to try to take care of you. Speaking of brightening stuff up, let's try to put a little bit of sparkle on here. I would never put this on at actual work, but we're just making a fun little video, so we're gonna... Oh my gosh, I look like a clown. So, ooh. 1 second, y'all. I think I'm gonna have to wash this off. Okay, that was surprisingly difficult to like reverse and try to redo a little bit. But we're almost done with the makeup part. Let's go ahead and get that done real quick. This is just some setting powder, also CoverGirl. I usually prefer to do setting spray, but that, yeah, this is exactly why I prefer to do setting spray. But I don't have setting spray, and I'm not doing makeup regularly right now, so it didn't make sense to get that just for this. But let's see how good I can get this powder. A little bit more here. And then we're just going to do some cute lipstick. I didn't want to keep talking about the assignment while we did this last little fun bit with the makeup, because I was about to get this into something kind of serious, and I didn't want to like just be like sitting here playing with makeup while we talked about that, so yeah, just a little bit of color. I like lip gloss. Let me see this in the regular mirror. See what I was saying? That's why I'm glad that we use the viewfinder most of the time. Okay, this is what we're going with. This is my look. It is very amateur. I'm not a makeup artist or anything. Maybe I would have kept learning, but when I got down to my assignment that I'm on now, I don't know if it was allergies or what, but I had like a runny nose and stuff the first 2 or 3 solid weeks, and it made it very hard to maintain a makeup look for 12 hours, so I just quit, and now I'm natural faced like I am most of the time. Anyways, makeup portion concluded. Now you get to just look at my made up face and you can make any kind of comments you want. I just hope that it's not too distracting for you for the last part of this video. Anyways, we were talking about how we had a lot of long-term care patients and how it could be a little bit it could wear down on you, because a lot of these people were in the situations they were in because of very bad life circumstances and struggles with mental health. Others were just elderly people on their natural decline that, you know, happens to a lot of people towards the end of life. I would love for all of us to just be able to be able-bodied and sound mind up until the last bit and peacefully go in our sleep, but we all know that that's not always what happens. So there was that too, and just a combination of those two things, and the fact that it felt like nobody up there wanted to live. I mean, everybody was a DNR. I never saw a code in that hospital, and part of that, a code is whenever somebody's heart stops and we have to go in there and basically try to restart it. And at that hospital, I never saw one. And part of that is because 90% of my patients had a medical directive to not be resuscitated. It's called a DNR. And that means that if your heart stops, we just let you go. And again, part of that is because a pretty large portion of these people were already in a decline. If we tried to resuscitate them, it would probably just lead to a very poor quality of life. That I could make a whole other video about that, about at what point is it more humane to have DNR and that sort of thing, and withdrawal of care. Let me know down below if you want to hear more about that and my thoughts as someone who's been in the medical field for a good 5 or 6 years now. I would be willing to talk about it. I know it can be very sensitive and difficult, but death is a part of life and we need to talk about it, right? But the thing is, beyond DNR and withdrawal of care, there is also the topic of, and I want to keep it YouTube friendly with the words I'm using, but assisted unaliving. That's something that I think in Europe and Canada is already kind of, I don't know if common is the right word, but relatively legally available. And it's actually getting to be like that in some of the states here in the United States. And this is the first time I worked in a state that I know of. There's possibilities Washington had that going on too. But that was the first time, because we would have patients come up on special precautions for having attempts or thoughts of unaliving themselves. And then one of my coworkers was talking about how when you go down to the ER there, it is a state where they allow assisted unaliving. So the way she described it, and if you live in Maine and you know more about this, please correct me or give me more insight. But she explained it as, you go in there and you say, I don't want to be here anymore. And then they put like a virtual counselor on who, video chats with you. And she is the one that makes the determination of if they should, set you up to where you can be administered a pill to actually make that happen, or if we're going to admit you and try to get you help to, keep being on this earth. And then we just had some other situations on top of that where people got sent in and kind of pushed into being put on morphine drips whenever they themselves was saying, no, I don't want to. And of course we advocated for the patient, but their families and the surrounding culture just felt very pro-death, and like we were just, tucking people away into the hospital and just waiting for them to die, or even, oh shoot, I'm sorry, you're gonna hear that get low volume for a second because I used that word. But yeah, it just felt like so many people didn't even want to live, and when you're around that all the time, it kind of starts to get to you too, On top of that, there was just this general vibe. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like how, you watch a certain series and there's just this overall gloomy, depressing vibe. Maine had that for a lot of the year. And I do think some of it is that seasonal affective stuff that I talked about a little bit in Washington too. For a huge portion of the year up there, it's really just kind of icky and cold to go outside. There's a lot of limited accessibility with the roads because of ice and snow, and you're just kind of, holed up, and it's freezing. And yeah. All that to say, my life outside of work was honestly kind of boring, sad, and cold for, I would say, a good 75% of it. My coworkers weren't bad. We hung out a couple of times after work, and that was pretty uplifting just to have a little bit more social connection. And once it became summertime and I was able to get out more, I started, really getting religious about the gym and, just getting more into cooking, finding some hobbies. Things started to get a little bit better, but it was really hard for a long time. I mean, I told you I literally was just holed up in my room, trying not to be too cold, and then wheeling a little space heater to the bathroom. I don't know if cabin fever is the right word, but it was honestly a rough 2 or 3 months for that first portion of the assignment. But I re-signed anyways because the money was making sense, and I already had another trip planned, so I needed to make the money make sense, and I didn't want the expense of having to pack up and move and go somewhere else and risk that assignment not working out, because I was very concerned about that after what had happened in Tennessee. So I was like, you know what, I'll just stay here. I'll find a way to make it work. There was that very cool national park right nearby, Acadia. I would recommend it. It's pretty, and you can go for basically just one or 2 days. It's not like Yellowstone where it's just gigantic and you can drive for a whole day inside the actual park. There's actually a little bit of a parking problem because it's so small for how popular of a park it is. But it was cool to check out. But yeah, at the end of the day, the assignment wasn't a bad assignment. I felt like I was losing some skills because, like I said, it was almost like we were only barely trying to keep the patients alive, because a lot of times we were just kind of keeping watch over them and everything until they pass, which, again, I would love to go a little bit more into detail with this some other time if you want to hear about that. This is not the same as hospice care and those sorts of vibes, because hospice care, there's something a little bit more acute going on usually where we're anticipating this, versus just the vibe there was, oh, you're elderly and life is blah, so whatever. And I'm sorry if I'm being really smiley. That's, again, just kind of, I think I've talked about this before, that's kind of how I am on camera. That's also just kind of how I am generally. And I apologize if that's a little bit off-putting, especially talking about stuff like this. Hopefully, as I keep getting more comfortable with the camera, I'll be able to, just have a little bit more of a neutral face. We'll see. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the patient care aspect itself was a little bit depressing at times and not great for my skills, but my coworkers, they were cool. And the assignment paid me well. I had a chill landlord. I eventually made the vibe work for me without just getting so insanely depressed, or at least not staying so insanely depressed. I honestly had some pretty dark times up there, but I'm glad I was able to find things to kind of pull myself out of it. And then it was time to get the heck out of there, because winter was coming. And I knew that if I had had such a hard time in their spring/second winter and split second of a summer where heat waves were 80-degree weather, I would not be able to make it a winter there. So it was time to go. I packed my bags up. I got ready for a short little trip I was going to be taking with Angel down to Brazil and also some areas of Peru we hadn't been to yet, and said goodbye, Maine. So yeah, I feel like I was a little bit rambly there this time around. Part of it was definitely because I was trying to multitask, but it was fun. I hope you had some fun too and learned some things about travel nursing and nursing up in Maine. So yeah, I was definitely pretty rambly on this one. Sorry about that. It was the whole trying to multitask thing. This is my first time doing that sort of thing. I hope you still had fun too though and learned some things. I also hope that you will give me a little like down below if you've made it this far, and maybe subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I'd really appreciate. You know, I'm such an itty bitty channel that if even one person, like, you just put it down in the comments, say, I want a makeup and chat video, and I will make that for you, bestie. You can even give me a topic, although I will filter certain topics, so maybe try to keep it more on the vibe of what my channel's already about, or something pretty, you know, general slash at least YouTube friendly, and we'll work from there. But yeah, thanks again for being here to hang out with me today. And I just hope that you had a beautiful weekend this past weekend, and that you're able to find ways to make this week a little bit brighter for you and the people around you. See you next time. Bye. Oh, you're still here. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope I'm not like half on and off. My makeup was pretty light anyways. Well, since you're still hanging out with me after the credit scenes, thank you so much. An invitation to be an internet bestie, by the way. How about we just take a second to look at this crazy makeup pile I have going on? So here it is. Oh my gosh. I don't even know, like, I think some of this is from Wyoming, and the thing is, I don't know which is from where. I read that you can keep makeup for up to 2 years. So the ones that I'm confident I got in Maine, I might keep around, but the ones that I'm not sure about, I might need to toss just so I'm not keeping that stuff on my face. Not that I'm really using makeup much. Like I was saying in the video, it is so hard to find a good concealer. I was playing with all these different ones, just trying to find what made me least ghost face and also didn't like make me yellow. And we have an eyeshadow palette that I didn't even mess with because I did not know how I was gonna do that on camera. And I didn't really do much eyeshadow anyways. And then all this fun little eyebrow things and the bronzers and the blushes and just the one little lip gloss and the tools. Beautiful little collection here. Probably much smaller than some of y'all have, I know, but I'm also not a makeup girl, even though I was trying to be today. And yeah, just thank you so much for watching and being a part of all this. Let me know everything about what you think down below, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'll be seeing you around soon. Bye!